Good morning. Welcome in everyone to HogvilleNET Live. I'm your host, Kevin McPherson. It is Monday. Hopefully you've already got your day underway. Hopefully it's not too hectic. I know how it can be coming out of the weekend. I've had a busy morning already, so kudos to the troopers who are in with us today, getting close maybe to your lunch break so you can catch your breath a little bit. Always something to talk about in Arkansas Razorbacks men's basketball. Today's no exception. We got a little feedback. We've been getting feedback on various fronts, some from the staff, some from sources, about a variety of things as Arkansas continues to have an open roster spot. Arkansas continues to have questions about its non-conference scheduling, questions about the specific dates and times and television for the league games. Some of the same, again, when you look at non-conference. Future recruiting, we've been talking a lot about that when you look ahead to 2026 and beyond. So always really good talking points, especially the fact that this past weekend was another live eval period. We've been talking about Arkansas's presence over in Switzerland for the U19 FIBA action. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. We've already given feedback. We're going to start today, however. We got ProHogs to talk about, new contracts, NBA Summer League starting up at the end of this week. So always something going on, always something relevant. Once again, thank you for joining me here on HogvilleNET YouTube Live. Please hit subscribe, like, and share. Really easy to do, but it helps us out a lot. If you like the content, certainly that helps us. So we got a lot to talk about today, but the fact that we spent a segment, we spent a segment a few days ago talking about the fact that John Caliperry tweeted out a photo with he and Nolan Richardson, the Arkansas GOAT in coaching, and one of the all-time great coaches. Both of them fit in that category. I always say Caliperry is the greatest recruiter, but tweeted out that photo with he and Nolan at dinner, embracing, holding hands. They were at Herman's in Fayetteville, and I think it was the next day or the day after we get a photo from Caliperry from practice, and Nolan Richardson was on the court with the team posing with a photo. Nolan, the team, and Caliperry. I believe that was on Friday because I'd already reported that assistant coach Chuck Martin was in Switzerland for the startup of FIBA U19 play, which began Saturday, and that associate head coach Kenny Payne was in Atlanta to evaluate players as part of this, again, Scholastic Live Eval period. But you get this practice photo. They still practice Friday. You still have staff there conducting practice, including John Caliperry. And you see the photo with Nolan there, and Caliperry in the tweet references, again, Nolan speaking to the team. Well, I hope we get video of that. I'm really hopeful. I mean, I've been waiting on, practice clips like everybody else. Last year at this time for the June and July limited practice work, Caliperry talked so much about they really kept it to individual stuff. They went through individual training and not as much, and development, and not as much, team structured stuff or implementing or installing things on that the team's going to be doing in the season on offense, defense, and specialty plays, things like that. But we would see even little videos from the individual development stuff. We haven't gotten any of that yet. We haven't really gotten much of anything other than now 3 or 4 photos from Caliperry with the group just huddled up, posing for a photo. So something's better than nothing. But to see Nolan there and to know that he spoke to the team again, that stuff isn't just gold, it's platinum, and I want to see more of that. I'm hoping we'll get some stuff soon, not only practice highlights, but what did Nolan have to say? They do a good job once they start releasing stuff, they being the Arkansas Men's Hoops, social media, of Caliperry talking to the team as well and his words of wisdom. I'm ready for all of it. I know you guys are. And so we're giving you as much as we can. So something interesting, not only the Nolan thing, so I'm going to repeat what I've said before. This is not about egos amongst Hall of Fame coaches. It's about all hands on deck, everybody on board, embrace the past, embrace greatness, and don't run from it, and don't try to message over it. Don't. It's not about egos at this point. It's about getting your arms around an already storied, proud basketball program and highlighting the best of that. Because believe me, Nolan coming in there isn't some token gesture. It's I'm not going to say it's manipulative because it's certainly not that, but it's using your best resources for the best possible outcomes. That's what you've got to do as a coach. And it's not just about your X's and O's or your recruiting pitch. It's about everything you do on a day-to-day basis inside those doors. You're working to get better, but it's the voices you hear. And it can be a different voice sometimes that may catch the attention of one, two, or all of your players who keep hearing the same things from you. It's good to hear it from someone else who's been there, done that at the highest level, and had the greatest amount of success. And by the way, it's not lost on the fact that he did it at Arkansas. It's a proven thing. So I don't want to spend a whole lot of time just beating that to death, but I think it's very valuable. I don't take for granted when Nolan comes in there. The sound bites are great. I want to hear the words of wisdom, but it's not just about an immediate rush of energy. It's the idea that you're constantly building a brand. You're constantly improving your culture. And one way to do that is to bring in, again, Nolan Richardson, who's arguably the greatest coach in Arkansas Razorbacks history, regardless of sports. He's in that conversation. There's statue talk circulating. Again, I say do it. But what we have gotten, a couple of things here in terms of video evidence of something. Over the weekend, there's a shooting, I guess a shooting drills trainer that's been on the court inside the Performance Center with Arkansas players. And he released a couple of videos to an IG account, which I retweeted links to those videos on my Twitter account a few days ago. So you can go to my homepage at ARHoopscoop on Twitter, or what's now known as X, and find this tweet where I have linked some shooting drills for both freshman wings combo guard Isaiah Cely, as well as junior big man forward center Malik Ewan. And they're getting individual shooting drill work. When you see it cut up in clips like that, you're not going to see many missed shots. They kind of give you what you get to see are the makes for the most part. But there's, it's something in there with Arkansas players putting up shots. It's not as valuable as maybe as the stuff. Love what you do, man. Thank you. Yes, it would be awesome to hear. Nolan had to say, yeah, I want to hear all that. Thank you for some of the comments. And it comes on and fades off before I can even identify who made the comment. So thank you to those of you who constantly put the comments in, because it's very much valued. But you're getting a little video of guys in shooting drills, so that's better than nada, zero, zip. And Isaiah Cely, for instance, in the right corner on catch and shoot 3 balls, I think he made 6 or 7 and only missed 1 in the cut up they provided. The whole drill to begin with, before he got that was kind of toward the end. Before that, he was at the nail at the free throw line, standing right at the nail with some. It starts off with the left and right dribble work, and then a one-handed pass, and then you finish that part of that segment with a dribble left or right to the horn, and you pull up and shoot. So it's basically a coordination and rhythm drill where you're working on a little bit of precision in your handle exchanges from left to right, and try to tighten that up. Maybe pass with one hand going left or right. Most people say, well, your most effective passes are with both hands. Sometimes, though, especially for a guard or a facilitator, especially in transition, you might use one hand off the dribble. Or you may be in a situation where you don't have time to bring the other hand up. You've got to get off the ball. So it's kind of a rhythm and timing thing. And then the segment of the shooting drill, each segment ends with a shot. And so it's kind of interesting with Malik Cely. Isaiah Cely, you saw Malik Ewan, the big man, going through some drill work as well, shooting drills. Anyway, go check that out. Most of the stuff you saw with him was either fairly close range, mid-post kind of stuff, some face-up, mid-range stuff. And he's a guy that when we've looked at him statistically, Malik Ewan at Florida State, he's not really stretching the floor with 3-point attempts. I'm told he's working on expanding his shooting. The thing is, we were told the same thing about Jonas Adu last year, and that really wasn't his game, and it really didn't afford itself to translating to regular season. Seeing guys do it in practice and warming up, those kind of things, that's fine. But is it something that's actually playable and usable when you get on the court when it matters? And those are the questions we'll continue to have, because Malik Ewan's got a really good offensive game as it stands. 3-point shooting's not been part of that. So let's see if he truly is able to expand that and bring that to the court. What would be his junior season of Division I basketball at Arkansas, or is it something that he just continues to stay in the lab on, and as he develops further down the line, is it something he can add even if it's not in this upcoming season? there's a potential you've got him for 2 years, right? Because he's coming into a junior season. So that's a little bit of video for you to look at if you're starving for something and you haven't already seen it. Again, I tweeted links to those IG little mini highlight clips, something to look at for now. And something else we had, I think the team's been on campus, by the way, with Carter Knox, as you know, in and out. The team's been back on campus for a month now, actually over a month, barely 5 weeks coming up to. And we had, I think 2 weeks in, I came on and did a segment where I had talked to a couple of sources who had been inside the performance center watching the team go through pickup games, playing not practice scrimmages, but pickup ball, 5-on-5 inside there. And we kind of gave you the top names out of that group. We went through just about everybody, but we said the ones that stood out initially just from the pickup ball. So here's a little more intel for you today about what's going on inside there. At the time, the names I gave you that stood out at the very top, the 3 top names were Darius Acuff Jr., freshman 5-star guard out of IMG Academy by way of Detroit. Nick Pringle, the veteran SEC frontline, space eater, physical guy, your enforcer, if you will. His ability to just get up and down the court and look like an SEC big man. Those two, and Billy Richmond the third, just everything he was doing at both ends in those early pickup games. And then the next 2 guys that were mentioned most favorably, and not too far off, were DJ Wagner and Malik Thomas. Well, it's very interesting because the latest follow-up, and now we know they're going through practice stuff, limited stuff. And what we said a minute ago, which was true last year, that Arkansas focused almost solely on individual development and that kind of thing, and not as much team stuff. There's a little bit more of the team philosophical stuff. Not saying they're installing full things yet, offense, defense, and again, situational basketball, but there's more team concept stuff being introduced already in addition to the individual development stuff. So there's a little bit of a combo there. So that's a little bit of intel for you. The other part of the intel is it's the same names that are standing out so far in actual formal limited practice work. Again, as a reminder, right now through July, they got 8 weeks. They kind of started late. They didn't do it immediately when the team moved on campus a month ago, or a little over a month ago. So they started a little bit later. Part of waiting, I think, is also fitting in to get as much time with Carter Knox on the court because he's been in and out for a while. So that's something to think about there as a reason to do that. But those same names have emerged. Now, not Carter Knox quite just yet, I think simply because, he just got back. And so we'll see what, where things are and how that ramps up for him. But the same names have emerged so far in the limited practice stuff. 4 hours a week on court, an additional 4 hours in strength and conditioning. Everything else that happens is voluntary. You have to go in and do it on your own. Doesn't mean there aren't other people in the performance center, but you're not mandated. It's not part of the formal structure. And so doesn't seem like a lot, but you can get a lot done. And the fact, again, that it's Darius Acuff, Nick Pringle, Billy Richmond III, DJ Wagner, and Malik Thomas continue to be the names I get back from inside the building. Now, another piece of little intel for you. You're going to say, well, that doesn't tell me anything, but it's the perspective of what the staff told me when I asked. Said they are saying it's too early to parse anybody out right now as standing out. Well, I can understand why they would say something like that for more than one possible reason. One could be that's exactly right. It's just too soon to say anything. But other observers inside there are talking to me, and so I've shared that with you. So once again, it's the names that stood out when we talked about this a few weeks ago. We're back to that. All right, it's 14 minutes in. Thank you for joining me on HogvilleNET YouTube Live. I'm Kevin McPherson. And let's not forget, I had another segment where it got back to me that Caliperry directly talking to some folks said regarding freshman Isaiah Cely out of Springdale, the 6'7" combo forward wing. We're hearing more and more good things about him inside the building. And one of the things Caliperry said, he does things I can't coach. So we've brought you a lot of information. I say a lot relative to the fact that it's been kind of quiet in terms of any of the social media stuff, other than some photos that Caliperry puts out of just the team posing, not even photos of, candid photos of practice or something. We don't even have that. So this is a lot relative to not having a lot or anything really from the social media group so far. And I'm not complaining on those guys. They'll do it in their own when they're ready to do it. And it'll make sense once we start seeing some stuff. Maybe some of these talking points on who's standing out and some of this stuff makes sense. And the other thing I would caution here is, I wouldn't start setting your lineups or rotations based on this limited information so far. To that degree, I'm on page with the staff. I remember when Arkansas started the limited practice stuff a few years ago, and Vance Jackson, one of the transfers on that team, that was the guy that was being talked about in the first couple of weeks, and he was at 6'9", was playing, getting practice time at lead guard and knocking down shots and going crazy. And he ended up being, kind of at the back end of the whole thing as the season played out, and Arkansas turned around a really rough start in SEC play, ended up going to an Elite Eight eventually, had that long winning streak. So it just goes to show you, take everything with a grain of salt right now. We certainly expect guys like Darius Acup Jr., Nick Pringle, Billy Richmond III, DJ Wagner, and Malik Thomas to factor into Arkansas's 8-man, 2-deep rotation. I'm not saying don't expect that just yet, but who rises to the top, those things can change over time. Some guys acclimate a little more slowly than others. So always things to keep an eye on there. Let's run through some other stuff real quick before we get into the recruiting part. Just real quick, you had multiple Hogs re-upping, signing contract extensions with the teams they're on, ProHogs. We talked a little bit the other day about Daniel Gafford re-upping at Dallas, 3 years, $60 million. Over the weekend, we find out that Jalen Williams, Fort Smith Northside, signed an extension for 3 years, $24 million. The final year of that is a team option, but he'll still have 2 years in there of guaranteed money, and then it'll be a team option on that third year. We'll see how it's constructed, if it's just 8 flat across 3 seasons. The Thunder typically like to put a little more money on the front end, which can be advantageous for the player, but sometimes players don't want that for other reasons. But we need to see how the breakdown is, and we'll come back and talk about that once it goes public. But 3 years, $24 million, again, team option for year 3. So he's got at least 2 years locked in there at good money relative to his role and position. And then this comes off the heels of the NBA draft. We're in the first round, mid-first round. The Thunder drafted a big man, a forward center out of Georgetown, Thomas Sorber. I think Thomas is the correct first name. And we already know Chet Holmgren and Isaiah Hartenstein are the 1-2 punch on the front line, with J. Will serving really as your third big in that group. And you say, well, they just first round pick just outside the lottery. They go and get a big man. But it's never been about J. Will there. I don't think there was any insecurity there, and this contract announcement didn't surprise me. It's more about the future in Hartenstein and the contract money that he has and will demand, and being able to keep everybody else. At some point, that might be the player they have to, by getting a young player now, when they have to face that later, they've got an experienced player and can bring along, and J. Will's in the mix when they just re-signed him. And of course, you never know if there's a trade that goes down at some point that involves a Pro Hog. But Oklahoma City's done it kind of homegrown, using the draft. They don't bring a lot of free agents or make a lot of trades to add players that are going to fit into their rotation. Now, they did bring in Caruso and Hartenstein last year, but it's kind of a rare thing. When they got Isaiah Joe 3 years ago, he had just been waived right after training camp and the preseason games from the Philadelphia 76ers, and he had multiple options, but Oklahoma City was the best one for him. But again, they just don't do a whole lot in that way. It's good for J. Will. Another big contract announcement for a Pro Hog over the weekend, I think it was just yesterday, Bobby Portis, back in Milwaukee, going to stay again. It's like his third or fourth, I think it's at least his third contract with Milwaukee, maybe fourth. But he's 3 years and $44 million, so nearly $15 million a year. This is like these other deals. These are team-friendly contracts for these players to stay put. But there's also positives again for the players. Portis has said he's never been happier than once he got to Milwaukee, and there's a level of security. Here's a guy that was playing his 10th NBA season, and now he's on for 3 years. Now his third year is a player option, so he's got some control there, and that's part of why you would look at a team-friendly price tag. 3 years, 44 million. He's probably someone that could command closer to 20 million, if not more, on the open market. But he's got a player option in year 3, so he's guaranteed 3 years, but based on that. But it also gives him some flexibility to test the open market and going into year 3. Not that I think he'll do anything at that point, but he's got a chance now with this contract. Assuming all 3 years he makes that money, he will exceed $100 million, around 110 or so million dollars in his career earnings. So, that's life altering wealth, something that can set up his family. Not only, so he's Bobby Portis is one of those guys that makes you proud as a pro hog. Went in the 2015 draft. So again, he's going to go into a decade in the league, and he's going to be going into year 11 with the Milwaukee Bucks. We know he helped that team win a title. We know Jay Will just helped Oklahoma City title, along with Isaiah Joe, who last summer did his extension for 4 years, $48 million. The majority of that money front-ended in the first 2 years. It's not lopsided, but most of it will come in the first 2 years there. It's all guaranteed. I think the team does have an option in the 4th year, so he'll have most of that money guaranteed. And, of course, Dan Gafford helped Dallas to the finals a year ago, losing to Jordan Walsh and the Boston Celtics. Speaking of Jordan Walsh, let's start talking about, because we know that Adu Thero went 36th, early second round to the Lakers. They made a couple of trades to move up to get him. They see him as a first-round value. But you hit the ground running. And this Saturday with the California Classic, 4 teams in the NBA, the really earliest, that and the Salt Lake City Classic are the 2 smaller summer league events that are going on, but they start Saturday, and you'll be able to watch these games on NBA TV or one of the ESPN channels. So you'll be able to watch Adu Thero and the Lakers. How about Nelly Davis signing with a summer league, joining the summer league roster officially with the Orlando Magic, where Anthony Black, lottery pick for the going into year 3. We won't see him in summer league. We shouldn't be seeing Anthony Black in summer league. He's a top rotation piece, but we should be able to see some Nelly Davis as well. Now, the California Classic again and Salt Lake City Classic, they start on Saturday. They'll play Saturday, Sunday, and then Tuesday, and that wraps up for that. And then it's July 10th. You have to wait a little longer for the big one. All 30 teams, the Las Vegas Summer League, and that starts July 10th again. So you get to see any pro hog that's participating. And the short list for me is not beyond Adu Thero and Nelly Davis. We should be seeing guys like, in fact, I know Jordan Walsh has already been announced on the Boston Celtics Summer League roster. Ricky Council IV, we could see him again. He just finished up his 2nd season. We're probably likely to see him again in Summer League play with the Sixers. Will we see a veteran guy like Mason Jones? He's really been a 2-way contract guy for multiple years, and it's not unusual to see 5, 6, 7-year veterans play in the summer league if they're kind of those 2-way, mostly G League kind of players. They're getting their chance to showcase again against guys that will be on NBA rosters. Some of the higher picks that will factor into even rotations this year will go through summer league, and so you get to match up against that. So you might see a Mason Jones or Stanley Amude, who's been with Milwaukee on a 2-way deal. Those are just some of the names to keep an eye on, in addition to Adu Thero and Nelly Davis. Now, I also wonder about Nick Smith Jr. Going into year 3. By the way, Nick was playing in a Queen City Pro-Am. Queen City is, the nickname for Charlotte, where he plays for the Hornets in the NBA. He was playing in a Pro-Am game a couple of days ago, and the highlights came out, but he had a 55-point game out there. So let's see if he's also in the mix for Charlotte Summer League action. He's played in the first 2 summer leagues. So something to keep an eye on moving forward as we pay attention to these pro hogs and the NBA Summer League. All right. I think we got a bunch of business out of the way before we get into recruiting. Mentioned before, Arkansas assistant coach Chuck Martin in Switzerland over the weekend for this live eval period that's allowed. And you've got multiple Team USA U19 performers from the 2026 class. You've got 4 of the 12-player Team USA that Arkansas has made a priority in recruiting, and that I'm told remain priority recruiting targets. In other words, as time has moved on, Arkansas hasn't moved off any of these four, and none of these four have moved off from Arkansas. That's important because if we're going to talk about them, it's not a smart thing to do if neither party's really still interested. So we've talked about each of the four. The first game they played, and that was our Saturday segment. They played again yesterday, Sunday afternoon. Team USA. On Saturday, it was against Australia. We went through three of the international names that are in the group play. One player that we really focused on with Australia, and we talked about him, Roman Sulipa, who continues to be a name that's, the player, the prospect himself would be a perfect fit for that ninth rotation piece at Arkansas. At 6'7" combo forward, 230 pounds. I compared him to Norshad Omier in terms of body type and just the relentless attacks on the paint and the rim, but he can handle a little better on the perimeter than Omier. He can knock down some threes. Had a double-double against Team USA for Australia on Saturday. So we talked a little bit about him, but it might be a pathway that he may already be committed to or even signed with Pitt out of the ACC or some other school. It's believed that he may be close to something going public there. But the other part is it hasn't gone public. And I said I know for a fact, it was a little more intel, that Arkansas is not only impressed with him, but has curiosity about where his situation might be going. So you just never know when it's John Calipari and that coaching staff where that could go. A couple of other names we mentioned. One was a player for France, and I mentioned him on Saturday, even though Arkansas hadn't played, or excuse me, Team USA hadn't played France yet. They played him on Saturday. On Sunday, and it was an 108-77 win for Team USA. The French team always has really good players. You're seeing that with a flood of guys going in the NBA now, high-level draft picks. You're seeing a lot of that, so it's relevant. But this Thales Sulak started off really good against Team USA. He hit a three. He beat Jordan Smith Jr. off the bounce, which is hard to do. That dude's an elite defender, and got all the way to the rim for another bucket. He had 5 of France's first 7 points. They jumped out to a 7-2 lead, and Team USA quickly walked them down. Ended up winning that game again, 108-77. But Sulak finished with 12 points, 4 rebounds, and 3 assists. Did some good stuff. I thought sometimes he over-dribbled trying to beat Jordan Smith Jr., who got his revenge, poked the ball away, dove to the floor to get a steal, and Team USA got a transition bucket out of that. So that head-to-head matchup when they guard each other was interesting at times. But I thought Sulak did a good job when he wasn't trying to do too much, when he would penetrate and get a paint touch of dishing the ball, either dumping it down for someone that had a closer look as the defense was trying to recover on him, or kicking out for a shooter. So Sulak could have had more assists. He did a good job of distributing the ball. He's a strong-looking guard at 6'3". Mentioned he knocked down a three. He shot okay. I think he made a couple of threes, at least one. But again, 12 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists against Team USA. There's another player I did not mention Saturday for Team France that I'm going to mention right now. And this is a 4-name. There's 4 names to this one with at least 1 hyphen. But Mark Owen Fozo Dada, a 6'3", 6'4" guard. He's 18 years old. And here's a little more intel for you. I am told that as soon as FIBA U19 wraps up, he is going to figure out which team's got the best deal for him to come over to the U.S. and play college basketball next season, class of 2025. He's a 6'3", 6'4" guard, strongly built. He's a guy that generates a lot of free throw attempts. He's a tough defender. He'll go in and rebound. But 2 games for France, the opening round win over Cameroon on Saturday by 25 points, and then this loss to Team USA, he did some good stuff. He wasn't necessarily hitting shots against Team USA, but he ends up not early, not when it mattered. But he finished up with 17 points, 3 assists, 3 steals, a couple of rebounds, and a block. So he does a little bit of everything. But a strong guard. Again, does Arkansas want to add another guard? Effectively a freshman guard to this roster. The depth piece that makes most sense is the front line and a 4-spot guy, and that's what Roman Sulipa, who I started talking about here again when we went into this, would fit in perfectly. But again, is he off to some other destination? Arkansas has interest. Are they going to pursue it? The intel here is this player is ready for 2025, and who's coming after him? And Arkansas's got eyes on all these guys this weekend. So it's not to say that Arkansas will, but this guy's an eye opener. He's getting a lot of attention right now. He scored double figures in both of these games. I think he played off the bench for France yesterday against Team USA. So keep an eye again. Mark Owen, Fozo Dada, F-L-D-Z-O, and then Dada, D-A-D-A, Mark Owen. Again, a 6'3", 6'4" guard. I like him. I like both he and Sulak, both of those French guards. Sulak, again, if a reminder when I talked about him on Saturday, I'm told he's probably going to wait to 2026. But again, if you're interested there, so that's two guards. In Salipa, you've got a combo 4 to 3-4. It'd be perfect at the 4, playing in tandem with Trevor in Brazil. I don't know if Arkansas is, again, going to pursue him or not. The other name I mentioned on Saturday, who's in the same bracket, the same group play, that Team USA's in, and Team USA will match up against this guy on Tuesday. They're off today. Everybody's off today. Play picks up back up tomorrow. So Team USA against Cameroon. I keep saying Arkansas. Team USA against Cameroon. But this big man, we mentioned him in his modest stats on Saturday in their first game, the first round loss to France. It was like 6 points, 4.6 rebounds. But I mentioned Amadou Sini, S-E-I-N-E, a 7'1" center that played for an Italian club, but is on that Cameroon team. And we went through his modest stats. I said, keep an eye on him because he's a guy that if you could, he's 18 years old. If you could, he's someone I'm told to pay attention to in terms of coming over and playing basketball in the United States at the D1 level. And it's a front line piece. It'd be another guy, another young front line guy, but he would certainly fit into a 9. He'd be ahead of some other guys Arkansas just added based on what he's done so far in his career. But on Sunday, Cameroon took Australia to the brink. I think it went to double overtime. But Sini finished with a monster double-double, 19 points, 24 rebounds, 3 blocks, and 3 steals. So he's a demon on the glass. He's making plays defensively. He's really active. He's one of the guys to keep an eye on. I'm telling you. Let's see if Arkansas gets involved here. So I know, again, Chuck Martin's at courtside for these games, and this is one of the standouts. It's why we talked about him before he had this game. And now he's gonna match up with Team USA tomorrow. So that's one to keep an eye on. Let's get to the Team USA guys, because I know you're excited about guys like Jordan Smith Jr., who continues. He started again. The lone 2026 guy, when you look at that group, that's really, when you combine the two games, that's on the court more than anybody out of that class, and on the court more than some of the top-level 2025 guys. So yesterday, that was the case. Again, 17 minutes. He started. Jordan Smith Jr., the 6'2", 6'3", powerful, athletic, long-armed guard, an elite defender, just a relentless defender. I keep making the comparison to Cason Wallace, who played for Cal at Kentucky and is one of the stars for Oklahoma City Thunder's title run in just year 2 in the pros. This guy to me is just the perfect glue guy, connector. Yeah, he's a top 5 rated 5-star, but it's not about fancy offense with him. It's about making the right plays, doing all the dirty work, and just being better than everybody when you combine it all. But 17 minutes, 7 points, another stat stuffer, 3 assists, 3 steals, 2 rebounds, and a block. So, here's a guy in 2 games that has 8 steals and 4 blocks at 6'2", in addition to, 15 points total, so averaging 7.5 points a game, averaging 3 rebounds or such. But what a performance, 2 performances he's had in back-to-back games, both wins for Team USA. And remember, Jordan Smith Jr. has said that he intends to visit Arkansas after Nike Peach Jam, which will run through much of July and concludes at the late in July. Tyron Stokes, the number 1 player in class of 2026, had more run in this game than he did in game 1. 15 minutes. So that was, he only played 3 minutes in game 1. So he got 15 minutes in this one. Again, Team USA wins by 31. He's playing off the bench. 5 points, 4 rebounds, a steal, and an assist. A block for Tyron Stokes in his 15 minutes. 6'7", do-it-all, positionless kind of guy. You can play the 1, 2, or 3, can defend multiple positions, give you a breather at the 4 even if you needed it. Talent-wise, nothing changes because of these roles in terms, in my opinion, the pecking order for for the recruiting rankings for class of 2026. Caleb Holt out of the Atlanta area, Grayson High School. I think he's transferred or announced a transfer to Prolific Prep, the 6'4" combo guard. He's playing a lot at the one lately, not for Team USA, but has, that's kind of, he wants to be known as a combo now at 6'4". It's talked to me about visiting Arkansas as soon as Caliperry ramps back up the discussions. So we'll see where that goes. And Arkansas continues to keep tabs on him at every live eval opportunity, including this one. But 14 minutes, in his 14 minutes off the bench, Caleb Holt, 10 points. He was 4 or 5 from the field, including 2 of 3 from 3. He had a really nice catch and shoot corner 3 with a defender closing hard on him early in that game when he came off the bench. But 10 points in his 14 minutes, three steals, and a couple of assists. So good on him. Caleb Holt getting into double figures. He's the first of the 2026 guys to officially get into double figure scoring in this event. And then Brandon McCoy Jr., he's not playing spring and summer. The lead guard out of Los Angeles, also ranked top 5-star in that 2026 class, There's been talk maybe he's going to reclass, but he didn't play much. I think a minute in game one. In this one, he did play 4 minutes, so he's kind of the low man on the totem pole right now on this team. Again, mostly 2025 guys that are freshmen in this upcoming high major Division I season, and one college sophomore going into the season, and Morris Johnson transferring from Illinois to Michigan. So it's not like he's being bumped for guys in his class, older guys, but he's the low man on the totem pole in terms of playing time on the team and among the 2026 guys, obviously. 4 minutes, 4 points, and a rebound for Brandon McCoy Jr. And again, Arkansas continues to prioritize these guys among others. Remember, they've cast the net about 15, 16 players, knowing at the end of the day, they're drilling that down, as Caliperry says, to 3 or 4. I won't be surprised if they get to 5 if it makes sense and it's the right combination of dudes. And so J.J. Andrews already off the board, top 15 rated 5, and I call him a 5-star regardless of what the service is having now. He's on a pathway to being a McDonald's All-American, and you're just continuing to recruit, be seen, evaluate, all those things. Kudos to Arkansas's coaching staff for being in Switzerland and other places this weekend as they look to continue to put eyes on players. We have more international names we're going to bring up that are available potentially for 2025, certainly 2026. We're going to talk more about that as we go through the week. And the reason I'm spacing this out is some of these names are players that are not quite yet. They're another group play, and so the 4 teams the other 3 teams in Team USA's group, those are the players we've talked about. Players from each team are France, Australia, and Cameroon. And so there are other players on other teams like Mali. Some of these other ones are some really high-level guys. And we'll see how it works out once we get out of group play. I may save some of that if it looks like Team USA is going to play that team next, something like that. But I'm going to eventually get to all of them, whether Team USA plays against those teams that have those players or not. Clear as mud, I know. That's international stuff. And I'm not trying to meander on purpose. Again, there's a rhyme, or a reason to my rhyme and a rhyme to my reason. But we've gone through several names already today. The new one, Mark Owen Foja Dada, who again, going to go to maybe it's the highest bidder, maybe it's a good enough NIL offer, but the best place to help him. And he's a guard, so we'll see if Arkansas has any interest. But that's a guy that's earmarked in 2025, and he's playing well in this event, and the name I was given before the event started to really pay attention to, and so I am. Thank you for joining me on HogvilleNET YouTube Live. I'm Kevin McPherson, your host. Again, the request, please hit subscribe, like, and share. That helps us out. If anything breaks later today, we'll come back on. If we get any practice videos today, I'm not necessarily going to go live for that, but we'll certainly hit it in the morning. Tuesday's my out-of-town day, so I'm either on really early, 5:30 probably. If not that, I might be able to do it a little later in the morning before 7. It might end up being after 7:30 at night. So either way, we're going to get back. Kevin, you're making it happen. I'm not sure. That's a long one. I'll read through that later. We're almost 40 minutes in. I'm going to beat 40. We appreciate all of you. Love you all. Thanks for being here. Take care of yourselves until next time, because we're going to see you soon. Be good.